Why can't governments just print money to pay off debt? Imagine this: a government has a huge debt, billions, even trillions of dollars. Why can't they just fire up the printing presses, create a bunch of money, and pay it off? Simple, right? Well, not quite. It turns out that this seemingly easy solution can actually lead to disastrous consequences for an economy. Let's break down exactly why. Part 1. Inflation. The rise in prices. First, we need to talk about inflation. When more money is printed and pumped into the economy without a corresponding increase in goods and services, what happens? Prices go up. This phenomenon is known as inflation. Think about it this way: if everyone suddenly has double the money, they can afford to pay more for things. But if the supply of goods stays the same, businesses will raise prices to meet the increased demand. So instead of fixing the problem, printing more money simply makes everything more expensive. Part 2. Hyperinflation. When prices spiral out of control. In fact, when governments do print excessive amounts of money to cover debts, they can set off hyperinflation. That's when prices spiral out of control, often increasing by hundreds or even thousands of % in just a short time. Take Zimbabwe, for example. In the 2000s, they printed a massive amount of money to cover expenses. What happened? Hyperinflation hit, and eventually, prices doubled every few hours. A loaf of bread went from being affordable to costing trillions of Zimbabwean dollars. Part 3. Trust and the value of money. But it's not just about inflation or hyperinflation. It's also about what money represents. Money has value because people believe it does. This belief is based on the stability of the currency and the economy backing it. If a government just prints endless amounts of money, that trust erodes. People lose faith in the currency because it's no longer tied to anything substantial. The money becomes worthless, and that can wreck an entire economy. Part 4. How government debt works differently now. You might wonder, if printing money is out of the question, how do governments actually deal with debt? Government debt is quite different from personal debt. Governments often borrow money by issuing bonds, which are like IOUs that promise to pay back the lender with interest over time. These bonds are often purchased by other governments, large institutions, or even citizens. This way, a government raises money without just printing it. Plus, since they can control their own interest rates and have long timelines, they can manage debt differently than individuals can. Part 5. The role of central banks. This brings us to central banks. Central banks, like the U.S. Federal Reserve, play a big role in managing the money supply and interest rates. They can create money in a sense, but they do so very carefully through mechanisms like quantitative easing, where they buy government bonds to inject money into the economy. Even then, central banks tread carefully, because too much intervention can still risk inflation or other economic side effects. Part 6. The solution: economic growth. So, if printing money isn't the solution, what is? The real answer lies in economic growth. When a country's economy grows, it generates more revenue through taxes, which helps to pay down debt. Growth creates more jobs, higher incomes, and more wealth overall. So, instead of printing money, governments focus on policies that encourage growth. Conclusion: to recap. Printing money to pay off debt might seem like a quick fix, but it leads to inflation, erodes trust in the currency, and can trigger economic chaos. Instead, managing debt through bonds, carefully adjusting money supply, and fostering economic growth are far more sustainable solutions. Next time someone suggests just printing more money to solve debt, you'll know why it's not that simple, and why the real answer lies in thoughtful economic management. Thanks for watching. If you found this explanation helpful, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and leave a comment with your thoughts on how governments can better manage debt. See you in the next video.